This happened back in 2015 during a solo hike I took in Arizona. The trail started through a stretch of dry desert before climbing up a medium-sized mountain that led into a narrow canyon pass near the summit. Long hikes like that were always my escape from everyday stress. Spending 8 or 10 hours alone in nature helped clear my head better than anything else. The trail itself wasn't well known. There wasn't even a parking area nearby, and finding the trailhead had been difficult. It was hidden behind thick bushes, and the path was so faded it almost disappeared in places. I never purposely searched for isolated trails, but I also hated crowded ones. So the emptiness didn't bother me at first. As I continued upward, the forest started looking wrong somehow. The trees became dry and brittle until many of them looked completely dead. Some had collapsed over the trail while others had thick broken branches hanging down everywhere. It looked like the path hadn't been maintained in years. Eventually the trail narrowed through dense overgrown brush. The path was still visible enough to follow, though, so I kept going. That's when I heard it. A whistle. It came faintly from somewhere farther up the mountain. The sound held a strange melody for a few seconds before stopping completely. I'll admit it unsettled me immediately, but I assumed another hiker was nearby. That was the only explanation that made sense. About 20 minutes later I heard the exact same whistle again. This time it was much closer. Much louder. The sound echoed between the rocks in a way that made it impossible to tell exactly where it came from. A cold feeling settled in my stomach, but I tried convincing myself I was overreacting. I wasn't about to abandon the hike just because some guy was wandering around whistling. Still, I slipped my pocket knife into my hand as I continued. A quarter-mile later I came across a large fallen tree blocking the trail. Thorn-covered branches made it impossible to climb over, so I stepped off the path to walk around it. That was when I noticed the valley below me. It looked like an old dried riverbed, and in the middle of it sat some kind of structure made entirely from branches and sticks. At first glance it resembled an animal den, but it was too organized. Too deliberate. Whoever built it had carefully woven the larger branches together. A bad feeling hit me instantly. The whistle. The hidden shelter. The isolated trail. I suddenly became convinced someone was living out there. Every instinct told me to leave immediately. I turned to head back toward the trail. And the whistle came from directly behind me. I froze. My heart practically stopped as I spun around toward the valley. Standing just beyond the stick structure was a goat. At least, that's what I thought it was at first. It stood perfectly still, staring directly at me. Something about its size felt wrong immediately. It was much larger than any goat I'd ever seen around that region, tall enough that its shoulders nearly reached the lower branches of a nearby tree. But what disturbed me most were its eyes. They didn't look like animal eyes. They looked focused. Aware. Like something intelligent was studying me. I couldn't move. My entire body locked up as the thing continued staring without blinking. After several seconds I slowly took a step backward. The goat opened its mouth slightly. And then it whistled. The exact same melody. Human. Perfectly human. Terror hit me all at once. I turned and sprinted down the mountain without even thinking. I slipped over rocks, slammed into fallen branches, and fell hard multiple times, but I never stopped running. Behind me, far up on the ridge, I heard the whistle one last time. Soft. Almost playful. By the time I reached the trail exit I could barely breathe. I never told anyone about what happened because I knew nobody would believe me. For years I convinced myself there had to be some rational explanation. But recently I started reading stories about skinwalkers. And honestly, it's the only explanation that has ever made sense to me.